From the $365,000 Jaguar to Ford's biggest flop, the 1991 Mercury Capri, these are the 25 worst muscle cars of the 1990s you've probably never seen before. The Jaguar XJ220 was a complete letdown. People loved the 1988 concept car with a V12 engine and all-wheel drive, promising 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. Jaguar started taking deposits, stating it would cost £290,000. In 1992, the production car was different. The V12 was now a V6 with rear-wheel drive. The price jumped to £470,000. It had 542 horsepower and could go 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. It was fast, but not what Jaguar promised. Many customers tried to get out of their contracts. Jaguar couldn't sell all 350 units and only made 282. The last one sold for a third of the original price. Chrysler made the Plymouth Breeze in 1996. It was supposed to be a cheap value car. It had the smallest engine and cheap parts. Basics like power windows were high-end options. Forget about a V6 engine or aluminum wheels. The Breeze was roomy and cheap, but boring. It made people realize Plymouth cars were just rebadged Dodges. Chrysler killed the Breeze and the Plymouth brand in 2001. Acura had a tradition of great coupes. They promised a fantastic car with the CLX concept. Instead, they gave us the Acura CL, which was just a Honda Accord in disguise. They bragged it was the first foreign car designed and built in the US, but it was nearly identical to the Accord. Same wheelbase, same suspension, same everything. It felt like a fancy Accord coupe. And buyers quickly realized this. Why buy the expensive CL when you could get an Accord for much less? The Toyota T100 was literally a joke. Toyota thought they could beat American trucks. They believed a full-size truck with a V6 engine and small size would sell. They were wrong. The T100 looked weak and was weak. American trucks were big and powerful. The T100 wasn't. It had an 8-foot bed and 3 seats, but that didn't help. Toyota added an extended cab and a supercharger, but still, nobody cared. The 1996 Ford Taurus was a design disaster. Its oval shapes everywhere made it look ridiculous. People hated the oval headlights, the oval grille, and even the oval rear window. The inside had an oval center stack too. It was a far cry from the stylish original Taurus of 1986, which had been a huge hit. Ford tried to keep it popular by dumping many on rental fleets. This worked for 1 year, but after 1997, the Taurus lost its bestseller status. The 1997 Cadillac Catera was supposed to attract young buyers. It was an import from Opel in Germany, but it didn't look like a Cadillac at all. People expected a Cadillac to have a strong presence, but the Catera was bland and boring. It had good performance, but lacked luxury. It wasn't designed to compete with BMW or Mercedes. Instead of drawing new customers, it turned them away. People said it was more of a Caddy-Whack than a Cadillac. This failure did help Cadillac realize they needed unique designs, leading to better cars like the 2003 CTS. The 1994 Dodge Ram van was a huge letdown. Conversion vans were popular in the mid-90s, but the Ram van was nothing new. Chrysler gave it a new bulbous nose, but underneath, it was the same van Dodge had been selling since 1971. The dashboard was from 1978, making it feel ancient. The Chevrolet van, also from 1971, at least got updates over the years. The Ram van, on the other hand, was outdated and felt old. Even though the fuel-injected Magnum engines made it quick, the van's old design and poor build quality were obvious. The 1994 Saab 900 marked the beginning of the end for Saab. In the 80s, Saab was a hit in the US, competing with Volvo and BMW, but then General Motors bought Saab and ruined it. The new 900, introduced in 94, was a disaster. It shared its platform with the Opel Vectra, losing the unique Saab feel. Sure, it had some Saab-like features like the hatchback profile and ignition key slot between the seats, but it was clear that the car had lost its originality. The 1993 Honda Civic Del Sol was a poor attempt to replace the beloved CRX. Honda wanted to mix the traits of the CRX and the popular Mazda MX-5 Miata, but it ended up with a mess. The Del Sol's Targa top couldn't provide the open-air feel of the Miata, and its extra weight and low-grip tires meant it couldn't match the CRX's agility. The tiny trunk, barely big enough for the removable roof panel, made it impractical. Sales were terrible, so in '94, Honda added a 160 horsepower engine from the JDM CRX SIR, but that didn't help. Changing the name to just Del Sol didn't work either. The 1995 Chevrolet Cavalier was a sad attempt at a car. It was outdated, noisy, and handled like a boat. Chevy failed to innovate, making it look ancient from the start. It was a joke compared to Honda Civic or Toyota Corolla. 10 years of minimal changes couldn't save it, ending with the terrible crash test scores. Daewoo tried to enter the US market with these three, but they were a mess. Cheap plastic interiors felt like a bus station bathroom. College students were used as sales reps who later sued Daewoo for tax issues. Bankruptcy ended this disaster with GM buying the assets, continuing the torment under different names. The 1990 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme convertible was a joke. It had a massive bar in the middle for rigidity, but it only made it look ridiculous. Poor sales and GM's empty promises led to its demise after 6 years. The 1991 Toyota Previa was a weird egg-shaped minivan that alienated buyers with its high price and ugly design. Its four-cylinder engine struggled to keep up, taking 13.6 seconds to hit 60 miles per hour. Fuel economy was terrible, barely escaping the high teens. Even adding a supercharger just made it noisy. It took Toyota nearly a decade to fix this disaster with the Sienna. The 1995 Honda Odyssey was another minivan failure. Honda avoided sliding doors, choosing traditional ones instead, which parents hated. Arriving just before Chrysler's improved minivan, the Odyssey was outsold 25-1. Honda even sold some as Isuzus, but they got the poorly made Rodeo in return. It proved Honda could definitely do wrong. The 1996 Nissan 200 SX SCR was a massive letdown compared to its predecessor, the Sentra SCR. The independent rear suspension was replaced with a cheaper torsion beam, and the extra weight slowed it down. The suspension was softened for increased compliance, ruining its sporty feel. The 1991 Saturn S Series promised innovation but delivered mediocrity. Despite unique engineering, it felt like any other noisy, unrefined GM car. Its plastic body panels were supposed to be a game changer, but they never updated the styling. GM's 1990 Dustbuster minivans were an eyesore, nicknamed that for their vacuum cleaner-like design. Underpowered with a 120 horsepower V6, they were a pain to drive and park. Despite attempts to fix them, they remained market failures. The 1992 Hummer H1 was a civilian version of a military vehicle, but it was terrible to drive. It had minimal passenger space and a loud, weak engine. Even after engine changes, it remained slow and noisy. BMW's 1995 318 Ti aimed to attract young buyers, but failed miserably. It was slow, ugly, and had mismatched front and rear suspensions. With only 25,000 sold, it damaged BMW's brand image. The 1995 Chevrolet Monte Carlo was a dull, uninspired version of the Lumina. It lacked any distinctive style and had no redeeming features. Chevrolet waited years to fix its blandness, making it a disappointment for Monte Carlo fans. Ford's attempt to rival the Mazda Miata backfired spectacularly. The 1991 Mercury Capri, based on a mishmash of global parts and marketed to the wrong crowd, ended up as a front-wheel drive disappointment. Its vestibule back seat and odd design choices left buyers scratching their heads. Volkswagen aimed to challenge Chrysler's minivan dominance but missed the mark with the 1993 Eurovan. It lumbered along with a woefully underpowered engine, making it more suitable for a slow crawl than family road trips. Even VW's nostalgia for slow vans didn't save it. Sales were so abysmal that the Eurovan vanished after just a year, returning later to similarly lackluster reception. The successor to the successful Festiva turned out to be a bulky disaster for Ford and its 1994 Aspire. With handling reminiscent of a beginner's engineering project and an interior that even the Geo Metro outclassed, the Aspire failed to inspire anyone. Its dismal performance and lack of refinement convinced most buyers to aspire to anything else, maybe even public transport. Yugo's attempt at a convertible only amplified its reputation for unreliability. With a needlessly complex top mechanism and outdated carburetor, the Cabrio made the hardtop Yugo look like a luxury vehicle. Americans burned once by the Yugo avoided this drop-top debacle like the plague. Suzuki's 1996 X90 confused everyone with its impractical design. It combined underwhelming power with laughable utility, a tiny trunk and T-top straight out of the 1970s. Its childish exterior and mismatched interior didn't help. Suzuki's aggressive advertising couldn't mask the fact that this SUV was more of an eyesore than innovation. With only 7,000 sold over 3 painful years, the X90 proved that sometimes, even in the 90s, less is definitely not more. And there you have it. Now, share this video with your car buddies and don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for more upcoming videos.